I think the biggest indicator that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is incapable of changing in any way. He has zero humility to ever admit to a mistake or a purposeful fault. He just is not the type of person who's ever going to actually be able to acknowledge that he has done something wrong and move forward in a positive direction. Is this stupid shirt he wore when he was getting a booster shot for COVID, in which read, "Vaccines cause adults." Justin Trudeau is a completely venile, vapid, petty individual. And this is a great example of how COVID has not been an issue for well over a year now. Even in 2022, it really wasn't an issue. That's what caused the Freedom Convoy in the first place, is that we were restricting people's ability to go over the southern border if they weren't vaccinated based on basically nothing. It was based on whether or not you made a personal medical decision or not. Completely worthless restrictions that were put in place. And Justin Trudeau, in late November of 2023, cannot let it go. So he slaps on that stupid shirt to go around trying to poke people in the eye, because Justin Trudeau's politics are not about trying to help people out, provide a more positive vision of Canada and bring people together for that vision. No, it's just about poking his opponents in the eye and dividing Canadians in hopes that he can grab up enough of a wedge of support that he can stay in office. This is Justin Trudeau's new marketing plan. And the funny thing is, I actually used to, not that I've ever supported the Liberal Party, Justin Trudeau used to actually be a little bit good at imagistics and marketing. The 2015 campaign was effectively just won because Justin Trudeau's actually half decent at advertising and like decent at projecting realness. Over time, we've found that realness is completely hollow and he doesn't actually have anything to offer. It was just all an act. And when he sort of sounds sincerely like he's thinking about things, it's not because he's actually thinking about things, it's because he's lying on the spot, needs to think hard through what he's about to say. But with Justin Trudeau now, it's that he sort of dug in over the past 8 years to the idea that he's right, and anyone who doesn't like him or doesn't respond well to his policies, it's not because they have a genuine disagreement and they have an issue with the failures of his policies and his social values. It's that they're a bunch of knuckle-dragging idiots and that he's here to basically mock them into submission. He's going to pass laws preventing those people from sharing news on Facebook like it's currently affecting the National Telegraph and myself right now. He's going to pass hate speech laws. He's going to trying to put pressure on big tech companies to take down things that he considers misinformation. Justin Trudeau is a deeply petty individual. And this is why I think that the Conservative Party is doing so well in the polling right now. And it's not just because they talk about affordability issues and want to get rid of the carbon tax and cut taxes and whatnot. That's all at this point extremely basic. You should just do that by default. It's not a grand vision. The reason I think that so many people are resonating towards the Conservative Party is in part the affordability stuff. That's baked in just based on the fact that people usually vote for the opposite party if the economy is really bad. But I think the main reason that people are going for the Conservatives is because they are taking a muscular stance against the pettiness of Justin Trudeau. When I hear some people say, well, maybe Pure Poly is being too negative, is that going to chase away voters if he's constantly attacking Justin Trudeau? I don't think it is. Because when Justin Trudeau has effectively been bullying Canadians for 8 straight years, especially conservative Canadians, people are going to rally for the person who's going to stand up to that bully. And that's what Pierre Poilievre has been doing, both in question period in Parliament, going after Justin Trudeau directly, as well as going after his allies in the media, who themselves are the biggest conduit for Justin Trudeau's bullying. That if someone stands up to the narratives and to the policies of Justin Trudeau, the media will come out, smear them. They're now an idiot, they're bigoted, they're pushing misinformation with no evidence on the media's part other than the fact that it goes against the liberal narrative. And now this is why I think that the Conservative Party, to guarantee the win in 2025, needs to make sure it never re-embraces red Toryism that says just be diet liberal and you might win. Basically, it's this fake cerebralness that we put out a 50-page plan for policies for this next election. That makes us, the adults in the room, are going to win. No, it's actually very silly to basically just say that we're going to put ourselves right in the middle of Canadian politics, stand up for nothing in particular. Yes, we're going to get rid of the carbon tax, and that's pretty much it. You're never going to win another election in Canada if you only ever stand up for commerce. because Justin Trudeau, he has been taking an axe to Canada's economy, but he's been more doubly so taking an axe to Canada's social values, our heritage, our like patriotism. That's the thing that I think is going to make sure that the Conservative Party doesn't just win a minority government, but a majority government. Because I've said it before, if the people were voting purely based on economics, Justin Trudeau wouldn't have survived the 2019 or 2021 elections, and he probably wouldn't have won in 2015 because voters would have not rejected the idea of affirmatively running deficits. Not because, well, maybe we have to pay for this thing in the short term, but just running deficits for the sake of running deficits. People wouldn't have voted for him back then if they cared deeply about economics. People vote for the feel of a candidate. And what Pierre Poilievre is doing by, again, running down Trudeau in Parliament and running down the media when they ask him questions is proving that he actually will stand up and protect the honor of Canadians who actually believe in traditional values, who are not morally subjectivists, who actually care about parental rights, who actually don't want politics in the classroom. And frankly, that's why I'm starting to run in Calgary-Signal Hill's Conservative nomination, because I don't want to see us have another candidate who basically all they stand for is commerce, because that's what's lost the country to the Liberals over the past 8 years. It's just standing for lower taxes. I'd like lower taxes more than the next guy. And frankly, I probably want taxes lower than many of my opponents in this riding. But if you can't stand for things like conscience rights, for parental rights, if you don't actually stand for gun rights for law-abiding gun owners, if you can't stand for these things and you're just mildly against what Justin Trudeau is doing, you're offering a weak conservatism that basically acts as if the Liberals are on the ascendancy in Canada and that they're going to win in the long run. And the best that the Conservatives can do is basically just say, put a little bit of the brakes on what the Liberals are doing. Maybe we shouldn't drive 100 kilometers an hour towards the cliff. Maybe we should drive 50 kilometers an hour. That's not compelling in any way. And this is something that Douglas Murray has said. I think it was actually, I know not a lot of people read this book, but it's a good book, NeoConservatism, Why We Need It. I know everyone hates neocons, but I think they're the most misunderstood group of conservatives on the planet. But he made the very good point that conservatives often look very befuddled when taking on the left, because conservatives are not actually pushing for their own vision. They're basically just pushing for the older liberal status quo. So you do get a lot of like supposedly conservative politicians running in nomination races, and they're not actually pushing to get rid of the liberal status quo. They just want the liberal status quo from 5 or 6 years ago. That's good enough. That's what we should be fighting for. But that's nothing to fight for. Conservatives can't be loyal to a status quo that's not your own. You got to make a new conservative status quo of smaller government, of traditional family values, of actually respecting religious individuals, gun owners, and all this stuff. Once you do that, once you actually have a more muscular foreign policy where we don't let the CCP walk all over us, we don't let Iran walk all over us after they murder our own people on flight PS 752. Once you do that, that's a status quo worth defending. Don't defend a status quo that the Liberals created in the first place, or you're basically just saying in the long run the Liberals should win because, hey, well, I agree with 80% of the stuff they're doing, but I think they're going too fast. Thinking that the Liberals are going too fast is foolish. I even have one of my opponents in this riding who just said that the Liberals are lacking direction. Lacking direction. I think that they're going in the entirely wrong direction. Not that they're sort of zigzagging on the sidewalk and they don't know where they're going. They're literally doing all of the wrong things. It's not just that they're kind of a little bit confused these days and we need to inject some focus. A focused Liberal Party, a more focused Liberal Party would be a terrible thing. I want the Liberal Party gone. I do not want them in office at all. I don't want politicians of focus and experience in office. Like that's the biggest buzzword I've heard whenever people are running for office and they aren't actual conservatives. They say, I'm an experienced person. Well, technically, Justin Trudeau has 8 years of experience as the Prime Minister of Canada. Do you like that experience? Well, no, because he has no principles. I'd rather completely inexperienced politicians with principles rather than experienced politicians with no principles. I like that Pierre Poilievre was elected when he was only 24 because would I have wanted someone who was 48 years old, had all of this business and legal experience, but had zero principles to back it up and was just going to basically be another Aaron O'Toole or Jean Charest? Obviously not. There's a lot of politicians in this country who effectively didn't have any experience in politics or business, or they were younger, or that they weren't really they weren't using any of their experience from the private sector in government, but they're the best politicians because they're not going to take no for an answer when it comes to fundamental freedoms that you shouldn't be, retreating on. Parental rights is a good example. You do get a lot of nomination candidates for the Conservative Party trying to sneak their way into a nomination who think that anyone who stands for parental rights is extreme. That's not extreme at all. And any voter who tells you that you shouldn't support parental rights based on some crazy hypothetical that somehow parental rights are trying to attack, LGBTQ individuals, that's ridiculous. Parental rights are just about not severing the connection between parents and their children once they go to school. That's the most basic freedom in a family that you could have, is that parents are the parents of their kids. The school isn't the co-parent. Obviously, if a parent's doing something actually wrong, there are already mechanisms set up for that. So we don't need to demonize the concept of parents being able to know what goes on in the classroom and what's in the curriculum. But there are some people out there who want to retreat on that issue, and they just want to talk about the carbon tax. I hate the carbon tax as much as anyone else does, but getting rid of the carbon tax is not going to heal the social damage that Justin Trudeau has tried to levy against Canada. Anyways, this was a little bit of a mini rant. It came about when I was just sort of surfing on Twitter, seeing some people I know saying some things that weren't particularly conservative. But that should be pretty much it for me today. If you wanted to donate to my Give, Send, Go for my legal fundraiser, I think I'm getting quite close to the end and likely winning this silly defamation defense case that I'm having to take up. Basically, a billionaire sued me for no reason but reputational pettiness, even though our publication, our guest writer who wrote an article referencing him was entirely correct and he couldn't prove it otherwise. And that I also wanted to just plug the fact that, again, I'm running for Calgary-Signal Hill's Conservative Party nomination. It's to make sure that not only do I think I would do a good job in office as a principled conservative, but also I want to prevent a red Tory from getting in a strong conservative riding and making the riding redder over time because they don't stand up for anything but commerce. Commerce is great. Also, we need to do a little bit more than commerce. Politics is a full contact, full spectrum issue. We can't just make the government about economics. The government, at the end of the day, touches on a lot more than economics. So other than that, I hope everyone has a brilliant day. And I'm actually about to go door knocking, so wish me luck. Or maybe I've already lost this nomination race and this is completely irrelevant, in which case still wish me luck in an ironic, funny way.